Yo! What's up, everybody? Welcome. It's House Divided on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum, the man pointing. I'm curious if he's a happy WrestleMania fan or not. Believe me, we've got buy or sell that we'll get to that eventually. But it is Chad Hastings. We're going to be with you for a little while. Like, comment, subscribe to the page. We do love it when you do those things if you haven't already done so. If you've done them, thank you. Just hit the like button. Do that every day. The show brought to you by Texas Card House and its partner, Hijack Poker. Technically, I think Texas Card House is the owner of Hijack Poker. I don't know how they quite distribute the all of that, but I know this, Hijack Poker. I was just online earlier today. I played it in the free roll. Didn't do very well. I was kind of distracted. It helps when you give the game your full attention if you're going to play for real money against real people. Scan that QR code or go to hijackpoker.com. If you're in the state of Texas, you can play. You can cash in. You can put your debit card or credit card, whatever it is that you want to do. You can put money in your account and get to playing immediately, but you got to be inside the state of Texas. You can't live inside the state of Texas, fly to New York City, play in New York City. It will stop working. You have to be inside the state of Texas to play. Love me some Hijack, Chad. Love me some Texas Card House. You know what I'll say about the Card House social?
What's that?
Before we get into the portal, this is like a metaphor for Oklahoma, maybe.
Oh, here we go.
I had to go number 2 the last time I was in Austin.
Wow.
And I was like, got to get to the Texas Card House social. Great facilities.
That's what you.
And I think that says a lot about a place. When a place has such a good bathroom that you'll do anything you can to get there. So the poker's fantastic. The menu's great, and the bathrooms are clean.
All right. What else could you ask for? What else could you ask for?
A great wait staff, they've got that too.
Poker on point, food on point, bathrooms on point.
Hey, man.
End of story.
It's not a big deal until it's a big deal. And then you like
point.
That when it's all said and done.
You don't value the good spots until you get the bad spot.
You know what they say about Morton's Steakhouse? Good food, but if you go in the bathroom, like you're going to get sick. No, that never happens. In fact, I think the best thing about strip clubs may be the bathrooms.
Usually it's pretty nice.
Because they got somebody in there that's like making sure you got a mint and a towel. And, hey, sir, you forgot to wash your hands. Do you want me to do that for you? Like there's all kinds of stuff going on. The Texas portal, Chad, all kinds of stuff going on. It's funny. We were having the conversation earlier today. And it's like, well, what will today's show be? And I said, well, look, I think people will want to talk about what has taken place over the weekend. The Longhorns pick up 3 on Friday in a move that felt very much like the end of The Godfather. It was like, oh, Michael took care of the family business and a Friday news dump and tight end, kicker, defensive lineman, bang, bang, bang. So there's that, because I think there's a lot to talk about with that. But I think most people will show up today to watch House Divided, and they want to know who's next. The portal is still open. Names are going in. Who's the next to enter? Who's the next for Texas to bring in? And while there's been all of this activity, and I can't wait to have a conversation about Georgia and Ohio State and Oklahoma and a few other schools in addition to Texas, I do think who's next, what's next, is the thing that's on most people's minds.
Yep. But let's not bury the lead. New Portal Combat intro featuring the biggest name in his new clothes. Here we go. I like how Blake, the super producer, wanted Texas fans to see the flowing locks of Bert Auburn one more time.
I wanted everybody to know that I played Mortal Kombat as a child or as a teenager-ish, but I did not remember that as a theme song for Mortal Kombat. So everybody, there you go.
I was never a Mortal Kombat guy. The last video game I remember being locked into in an arcade was Double Dragon.
Oh, I love Double Dragon. I'd beat the shit out of dudes with bats.
That was my fight game. The fight game was Double Dragon. You'd wait 20, 30 minutes for somebody to finish up so you could jump in on Double Dragon. But I was not a part of the Mortal Kombat world. By the time that happened, I had kind of graduated out of
the same thing. Like I never did any of the Mortal Kombats 2, 3, 4, 87, 92, 112. I never got into that, but I played the original one. But much more of a Double Dragon guy. Mazio's Pizza in Round Rock. Shout out. No longer there. So rest in peace, Mazio's Pizza.
Totally forgot about Mazio's. Yeah. So it is official, Catch. As we start this week, it's official that Nico has transferred to UCLA, the biggest name in the portal. But like you said, Texas added names to the portal. And if you're a Texas fan, it's like you're in Vegas and you're watching a guy on a heater and you're just thinking, what's the next thing that causes us all to explode and, and head to buy drinks or whatever. I think that'd be the mindset I'd have. If I'm a Longhorn crazy today, that's what I want. What's the next piece of good news?
Yeah, well, look. You've been hearing me say for months that Texas was going to be aggressive, that Texas was all in on 2025. I think I've had a few people call me out on that. Like, when are we going to see Texas be all in? And all I can say is, well, look, wait till the portal opens up. If that motto, that creed is correct, we should see it play out. I can't stress enough. Nobody else was getting a rash of commitments on Friday. Texas was. Yeah. Mainly because the portal has just opened. Guys hadn't taken visits. In order to do what Texas did, the communication levels had to be on point. And that means player, agents, anybody else, parents, got people that would have been involved in just day in and day out life. Quick action. These guys didn't take second visits. In order to do that, you have to come up with some NIL money to close the deal. So
stop that visit.
And look, I don't think this is also, I don't think the difference that I've said about Ohio State and Texas, and I think we saw it in the early portal, Chad, was Ohio State looks at the portal and looks at the costs and thinks, we'll figure it out later. Somehow, some way, the bill will get paid. And it has. Texas looks at situations typically and says, well, how do we do that? Do we have the money in place to do that now? I think there's a little more just of a reserved, some people, you ever heard of the check game, Chad, with the bank account?
The check game?
Yeah, the check game. It's where you write a check when there's not money in the account.
Oh, God.
But you know that there will be money in the account before the check hits.
Yeah, I just call that life.
Check game.
Yeah, okay.
Some people are comfortable with check game.
Some of us just call that Tuesday.
For some people, that's called writing hot checks. For other people, that's called good planning.
That's right. Strategy.
It is, right? And so Ohio State has been comfortable writing hot checks, thinking direct deposit hits tomorrow and we'll figure it out. Texas has been more along the lines of, hey man, that if we write that check today, it'll bounce. So let's figure it out. In the world of the portal, that little bit of hesitation can be the difference between getting a guy and not getting a guy. I think that Ohio State was in the same situation as Texas with Max Clare. And whereas Texas was like, we probably shouldn't break the bank with this guy because we've got all this retention to worry about. Ohio State was like, you know what, Dad, it sounds like to me next week's problem. And all we have today is a Monday problem. Let's solve our Monday problem. We'll worry about next week. I think what Texas did this week in the portal, I think they did what Ohio State did. I don't think they've completely got it figured out how all of these guys are going to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's work that's still left to do.
Yeah.
But
that's wild.
That didn't keep them from getting the job done. They went out and got a starting tight end. They went out and got a guy that I think is going to end up being a starting wide receiver. And the more onward I talk to people inside the program about Emmett Mosley, or that guy's name I want to call him Emmanuel Moody so bad. And that's an obscure name. Most people won't even know who Emmanuel Moody is.
Now that you say those two names out loud, I see how it got. Yeah.
That I'm referring to this guy as a running back from the class of 2006 is not good for me. But the fact that nobody caught it until Chad at midnight last night made me feel good about myself.
I'm so sorry. I didn't,
No, because look, normally if there's if I make a mistake in an article, Chad, there's like 50 people who will jump in to let me know that I made a mistake. Nobody did that.
I couldn't believe it got to that point, and I was reading it thinking, okay, like I know he wants to know.
Yes,
you want to know, and like you said, I'm reading it. By the time I got to, it was the last thing I did before I went to bed. It's like, all right, hey, I'm gonna read Catch's 10 thoughts, and it was like you said, it was midnight, 12:30, whatever it was, and I read through and I see it, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not it. And then I double check, and I'm like,
I want to call that guy Emmanuel Moody so bad.
And I'm like, should I send this before I go to sleep? And I'm like, I'll send it. He'll see it when he sees it, but I need to let him know. So yeah,
so you need to know in advance. I'm gonna call that kid Emmanuel Moody.
Okay.
Or Emmanuel
Mosley. Yeah, you're gonna try that one. I will try to keep you straight on that one.
I need everybody to know it's happening very organically and naturally.
Yes.
I don't think they totally know how they're gonna. I don't think there's a bank account with all of the money that Texas is going to need in NIL this year that's sitting there full where they're like, we're good. Maybe we should give some of this to basketball. I don't think that's happening. I think there's more work to be done, but I think Texas, in the name of aggression, in the name of, hey, somebody will write a check somehow, some way, I think they just are acting a little more, I don't want to say impulsively, because I do think there's strategy behind this. I think they've had a long time to think about, look, we got to have the money by June 30th, but it's April 21st. Let's make sure that we have a problem in June by doing the thing in April. But I think there will be some scrambling. I think you likely will hear stories in the coming months about Texas, because I heard it last week. I heard that Chris Del Conte has a big test in front of him with basketball and baseball NIL. And I heard a number in the millions for both of those sports combined, but like there's fundraising to cover both of those sports that still needs to take place. Football is still working towards it. This is the world that Texas lives in, but I can't stress enough. I think they came away with 3 starters and potentially a valuable backup or a rotation player in Levon Johnson, the defensive tackle from Maryland this week. I think they improved their team the way you would hope Texas would. Here's a stat for you, Chad. I looked this up. When we talk about Jack Indries, the new tight end for Texas, new starting tight end, and that does feel like to me the exact kind of move that Ohio State made with Max Clare, and maybe a move they would have made a year ago. The top 2 leading tight ends in terms of receiving yards among major conference players at the tight end position. Number 1, Max Clare. Number 2, Jack Indries.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't go to see who 3, 4, 5, 6 were. I only had to go 2 deep to kind of get the point that I was looking for.
So basically, if you're a fan of everybody but Ohio State and Texas, you hear that and think, oh, okay. All right. So one ends up in Columbus and the other ends up in Austin. Rich get richer.
But I think you think about how Ohio State got Claire back in December. It was a little bit of like, we'll figure it out. There's no way they had all of them. There's no way the pieces of the puzzle were in place for Ohio State in December from an accounting standpoint. And neither of these programs are coming from a place like Nebraska where they just have one super benefactor. And it's like, you guys fundraise and send me a bill for the difference.
Yeah.
So everything is going to get paid. And I don't want to write a $20 million check, but I will. Let's see if we can get it down to 10. All of these situations across college football are unique and different in their own way. And I looked at the portal all weekend long. I can't imagine, Chad, that anybody was as obsessed with following the portal as much as I was. Maybe it was equal. Mm-hmm. But on Easter weekend, I was updating my player rankings by the minute because I have a set of rankings of guys that are available, and then there's like a totality list. And it was constantly changing, and I'm updating and doing this, and I was obsessed with it. Nobody did what Texas did on Friday. Nobody had 4 guys locked and loaded, their 4 number 1 targets all taken care of before other schools were even having visitors come in. And then yesterday, Georgia had one of their, they kind of struck back.
I was going to say Georgia by the end of the weekend had their say.
By the end of it, they had their edge rusher that they were looking for, a running back that they were looking for. They took a defensive lineman with major conference experience, kind of the same way Texas did. They're still bringing guys in, and you're like, okay, Georgia's one of these. Georgia doesn't have arguably the most talented roster in the country by accident. And it really did feel like coming out of the weekend that the rich get richer. And I'm staggered. I'm staggered by the fact that Ohio State is recruiting a second-year tackle out of Sam Houston State. That these are the levels that even power programs are having to go to in some cases. Yeah. And I think I pointed this out in my 10 Thoughts on the Weekend. I mentioned it in the Overreaction Monday show, Chad. Sark has a type. Remember I told you a couple of weeks ago that my wife thinks I have a thing for Asian women?
Yes, I do remember.
I mean, I like all women, so I'm not going to say that she's wrong, but she thinks I have a type. I think Sark has a type of college football player. And his type of college football player plays in the SEC first and foremost. Yeah, we learned that in the first year in the portal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was like, give me your Alabama, your Georgia, your LSU trash. I'll take that over anything else. He's adjusted, and it's now SEC, Big 10, ACC, Big 12.
Right, because he knows right now half the time he can't look in the SEC.
Well, yes.
Got to adjust, right? Adjust that spring. The spring vision cannot involve SEC.
And if you'll notice, they just got commitments from 4. The early portal heavy on SEC.
Yep.
So he wants major conference college football players, and I don't think he's interested in a non-power conference player. You know how I know that? Because they're not looking at any of them as far as I can see. Yeah. Everybody else is, but some schools more than other are living in the lower ranks. And I've talked about this with Oklahoma, and I don't want to get into it too much today because this will be a show later in the week. But Oklahoma is slumming for talent. You cannot live in the SEC and expect, because what's the conversation that Chad, the conversation that we keep having, I keep forcing it on people. The goal is no longer to beat A&M and Oklahoma. The bar for Texas is Ohio State and Georgia. That is every conversation with every player has to be about, does this help us get closer to achieving that goal?
Mm-hmm. Especially when they're both.
Oklahoma's saying the same thing, right? They've got to beat Georgia, Texas, and Alabama, but they've got to beat these other schools in the SEC as well. It is a completely unproven theory that you can take players from small colleges, add them up together, and compete at a high level in the SEC. And it feels like Oklahoma is committed to that. I am fascinated to watch it unfold, but every single guy, it seems like they're looking at it. Look, they got an offensive line transfer from Stanford. They got their running back from Cal. So it's not everybody.
But the best news for them, the best news for them over the weekend wasn't what they got. It's what they kept. It's that D lineman that stayed put. That was their best news.
And the story behind that is bonkers. So let me lay this out for you, Chad, okay?
Okay. We see y'all super chats, by the way. ATX Bates, we'll get them.
Vivek, I'm gonna try to catch up here in a second. Let me just say this. This is all according to Oklahoma reporting. Okay, Chad, this isn't me with my sourcing. I'm telling you what I read on the OU Rivals site this weekend.
Okay.
They brought in David Stone as a 5-star guy on about 800,000. By the way, I'm fascinated by the fact that the OU Rivals site was so specific in its reporting with dollar amounts and believe me, to their credit, I don't know that I don't know that I even feel comfortable talking about someone else's money quite like this, but David Stone comes about 800,000.
They recruited him. This is the guy they recruited him out of high school.
Defensive tackle.
Right. Okay.
800,000. If you watch this show, that's pretty much what Texas was paying 5-star guys. I've told you guys 750-ish. That's been before this season. That would have been the threshold. So that number makes sense. So he doesn't play a whole lot as a freshman, Chad. He doesn't. It happens a lot, actually. And they go to him this offseason and they say, hey, man, we need to cut you back. You're not, for us, because of our limited amount of NIL, we can't afford to pay you $800,000. We want to pay you $400,000.
Oh, man.
Now, the kid loves Oklahoma. He loves the program. He loves the coaching staff. But nobody likes to see their pay get cut in half. Ever.
No.
His family and friends are close ones were like, yo, man, you cannot leave money on the table like that. And it sounds like Miami was whispering in his ear, hey, David, we'll pay you more than $1 million. So David Stone goes into the portal. The whole world now knows Oklahoma can't pay its 5-stars, which is the kind of thing you don't want to get out.
No.
Trust me, what Oklahoma needed was for this to get settled away from the public eyes. Instead, one of the only 5-star guys that they have in their program apparently was forced to take a pay cut because he didn't hit at a high level in the first year he was on campus. Is that the thing? Is that what Oklahoma's telling every 5-star? If you don't start by the end of your freshman year, half. So he goes into the portal, and then the public view of that story is broke-ass Oklahoma, but they're able to talk the kid out of the portal back to OU, in part because he loves the school, he loves the coaches, he wants to be there. I'm guessing they paid a bag. I'm guessing some money became available where they at least met in the middle. That's what I would guess. But they just did what it would appear on the surface. They did the opposite of Tennessee at Nico. Right? Tennessee took a moral stand, the way it was positioned and framed, against someone looking for more money and said, not on our watch. And the nation went, that's a victory for humans. David Stone went into the portal, not quite doing the same thing.
Yeah, especially if it came from if the school cut him, right? The school was cutting him back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he went into the portal for NIL reasons, and those reasons would not have been massaged in a way where he comes out of the portal unless you have to believe, because that kid was going to make $1 million. He's the number one prospect in the portal at a position where Ohio State and Georgia are bringing in Division II guys.
Yeah.
He's going to get paid. OU clearly stepped up, gave him the bag that, quite frankly, they needed to. This is a memo to all power conference schools. Don't recruit 5-stars if you don't think you can pay them a 5-star rate for all 3 years. Or you won't get more 5-stars. It will defeat the purpose of landing 5-stars if your rep becomes, well, they'll pay you in the beginning, but they'll cut you in half in year 2. That is not the way to operate. So, again, I got an hour of OU in me, but they and even the Georgias of the world and the Ohio States of the world are bringing in guys at really low levels of classification, and Texas just will not do it, is one of the things for me that's hard not to notice. And here's what I would say the biggest theme to take out of that if you're a Texas fan. If there's a guy from San Jose State this year that was really, really good at San Jose, Sark does not want to hear it.
Not going to matter.
He is not trying to, as I told Anwar earlier, if you have a state in your name and you're not a kicker, he doesn't want Sacramento State. He doesn't want Tennessee State. He doesn't want Missouri State. He might take a Louisiana State, just to be clear.
Yes, that would work.
There are some exceptions to the rule, but
a Florida State, yeah.
Maybe. There's no proof of that yet.
That's fair.
If
he's willing to look at a Maryland, I'm assuming he's willing to look at a Florida State.
And the thing is, let's talk about Levon Johnson for a second, Chad, and then we'll pay a bill.
Yeah, we got super chats too. We see them.
Then we'll do it. I'll just say this. I'll shut up. We'll pay a bill. We'll do the super chats, right? Sure. I don't want to discourage super chats. I just been itching to do a show today. This is my second show. I'm like an hour and a half into shows, and I got a lot to say.
I can tell.
When I looked at Levon Johnson, I was like, well, true freshman last year at Maryland. Not really any impact plays, nothing on the stat sheet jumps out. You look at his PFF grades, just because what else are you going to look at? It's not like there's a wealth of information that will break down how good a guy was. And there's nothing about the way that he was graded that stood out a lot. You look at the last 3 games, there were 2 things that stood out. The last 3 games, one of them against Miami, he was playing like 60, 70 snaps a game as a true freshman. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's a lot to ask of a guy.
Especially at that spot.
The other thing that stood out in addition to at the end of his freshman season, he wasn't just starting. He was basically playing the whole game. Number 2, they used him at 1 technique, 3 technique, 5 technique. And maybe I can't say this. They will list a guy at left end. I think that just means like a 5. I don't think that means they ever lined him up as a 9. But 1, 3, and 5 is enough. He's got position versatility. This is the equivalent of an offensive guy having starting experience at guard and center. You're like, perfect. Kill 2 birds. Get one stone, 2 birds. Awesome. On the surface, there's not a lot there, though. He wasn't great. He was okay last year. He makes a freshman All-American teams, but what does that mean? I mean, Patrick Vahe made a first-team All-American team back in the day as a true freshman, and as a senior, people were saying, we need an upgrade. That guy's not good enough. Like, freshman All-America sometimes means a lot. Sometimes it means nothing. And I think of the 4 commitments they got, he would be the guy that people are least excited about. But that guy was probably going to be a starter in the Big Ten this year if he doesn't transfer. That's what Texas pulled in. I'm flabbergasted at the Ohio States and the Georgias of the world, and then everybody else needing to look at Division II, NAIA. Like, it is. They're not even looking Mountain West. They're going below that. A couple of things. It tells me that teams spent their money and took care of their players, because this portal has not been as strong as I thought it would be. But number 2, man, every team has needs. Every team wants to get better. Texas seems to be one of the only few that has a standard that it doesn't want to break. And I'm fascinated by it, because Georgia and Ohio State are trying something else. But maybe that's because they had to. Maybe Texas looks at it and says, we don't need to go to Aldosta State to get a defensive tackle. We'll just take the guy at Maryland that started at the end of his freshman season. And it's hard to say that approach is wrong.
Yeah, we're going to circle back around to Levon Johnson. I got some questions for you on that, but let's get these super chats going. ATX Bait started us out with $4.99. Jonah Williams starts 3 hits, 3 RBIs, stolen base. What's an equivalent stat line for his first start in football? Lots of Bo Jackson comparisons. Whoa, no pressure. No pressure.
So
kids.
it's a stat line in football on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's got to be at least 1 pick six with a sack mixed in. At least maybe 2 turnovers created.
Maybe you don't have to take it to the house, but create a turnover, or maybe it's like a pick and a sack.
Yeah,
start there.
8 tackles, a pick, and a sack.
Yeah,
that's the equivalent of, because it wasn't like Jonah Williams hit a grand slam or anything.
Right, that's
true.
He
was fantastic, but like there's still levels for him to go. So we probably shouldn't go. He was 21 of 24 for 357 and 6 touchdowns. No, it wasn't quite that.
Yeah. Bates, thank you for the $4.99. And by the way, since he did that, and since Chris Bennett sent us this early in the show, that it is the week of that series. We're 4 days away, Catch. And here's now the matchup. Texas, obviously, red hot, white hot, number 1. They've won 10 of 11. Since the Aggies got run ruled in game 1 in Knoxville, they've gone 9-1, including winning the series in Knoxville and in Fayetteville. These 2 teams,
2 hottest teams in college baseball.
Oh my God. They're not, and they haven't gotten themselves back in the rankings, and they probably don't deserve to yet. But the series in Austin now has a little more flavor than it was going to, and we are only 4 days away.
But also a little bit less risk for Texas because they got a 3-game lead in the standings.
Right. Yeah. Texas is 16-2 in the SEC. They've had 2 series, Catch, 2, where they had to win the series on a Sunday, and the other 4 are sweeps. That's what they've done so far. Just unbelievable stuff.
It will be. I mean, by the time we get to the weekend, we'll talk some college baseball. I promise. Any other super chats, Chad?
The other super chat we had in was from Longhorn Football Edits. What up, Edits? $2. Sark is Scorpion in the portal. Get over here. Yes, he is. Okay, so please shoot us some super chats. It'll go right to the top of the list. We will definitely get into that. Let me thank one of our great partners, and I do have a question for Catch about Levon Johnson, the D tackle that Texas picked up. But first, let me talk a little sinus and snoring specialist. Man, I'm in a good mood today in a big way because of sinus and snoring specialist. I went to see the in-laws this weekend. What does that mean? Means I was away from the animals. My daughter was taking care of the cat and the dog, which means I didn't have to get up and feed a cat or walk a dog. What I did was sleep. And thanks to sinus and snoring specialists, I've been sleeping great since 2017. My wife is now sleeping in way better than she was because of sinus and snoring specialists. Get this taken care of. You've thought about it. You know you need to get it done. It's sleep apnea, it's the snoring stuff, or maybe it's allergies, or maybe it's sinus headaches, or maybe it's all of it. You know what your situation is, and they will curtail a plan just for you. It is the very latest in ear, nose, and throat. I always look forward to seeing my father-in-law in general, and we were going to a cool concert this weekend. I get to see my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and niece and nephew, but that good night's sleep I know I'm going to get, that's a big part of it too. Sinus and snoring specialist. Check them out. 601-0303. You can securely call them or text them on that number. SinusSnoringENT.com is the website. You can see it there and just hit the QR code for more info. Sinus and snoring specialist. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. Always a good thing, no matter what time of year you are talking about. All right. If you want to throw us a super chat, again, it'll go right to the top of the list. Catch, I just need you to flesh this out a little bit more for me on Levon Johnson. So we get done with the show Friday, and he's going to North Carolina, was the report, that he was going to be going to Chapel Hill. I'm on my way to see the in-laws and rock out with Pat Benatar, and all of a sudden I see on my phone that he's going to end up at Texas. And then the details, I guess, of what was signed and what wasn't. How the hell did this happen? How did a guy that was going to be with Bill Belichick end up with Steve Sarkisian?
This is Anwar Richardson's information, so I'm just passing along what he's reported.
Okay.
And it sounds like the North Carolina general manager, Michael Lombardi,
okay,
didn't processed the paperwork that would have – he didn't sign.
So Lombardi didn't sign?
The kid committed. The kid committed.
Okay.
Shortly thereafter, he should have signed. He didn't sign. Texas found out that he hadn't signed and got back in it and made him change his mind.
Wow. And the kid used that fact that he didn't sign to then motivate him to think about Texas?
It would be the equivalent of player A announces on signing day that he's going to school A.
Right.
But in the time between the announcement and the actual signing and transporting of a fax or whatever you're doing, photos on your phone, like however they do it. And I think they still use a fax in 2025. Something changing. So North Carolina got the commitment, thought they had the deal done. Yeah. And then sounds like they were too lackadaisical with regards to like getting the paperwork done needed to make it done.
That is incredible. Incredible. So obviously, yeah, that's a big get for Texas at these need positions we keep talking about. So Catch, to be fair, as we come out of the weekend, Sark has now added one portal guy in each of those rooms he talked about. He talked about wide receiver, tight end, and defensive. He said defensive line. I don't believe he said defensive tackle specifically, but he said that the numbers were down in all those areas. He's added one number so far in each area, plus the kicker from Texas State. So Texas making big moves. And let's update real quick the scholarship number, Catch, because I know you keep an eye on that too. 83 is the number right now?
They're at 83 today with 2 to spend. Okay. And we'll see if more guys enter the portal. I think one of the real fascinating conversations about scholarship limits I saw from over the weekend, Chad, came from Nebraska. So, Nebraska has historically had a pretty famed walk-on program.
Right.
But there's no scholarship limit in the Big Ten. There's just the roster limit of 105. So one of the things that you're hearing, what's the Nebraska coach's name?
Matt Rule.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things you're hearing him say right now is we love our walk-on program and we love in-state kids. But one of the things we're also doing is keeping an eye on our competition. Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, all of them. And what are they doing? If they're all going to take – now, this is me adding in now. If they're going to take 20 walk-ons, you kind of get the sense that Matt Rule is suggesting we're good with that, although maybe we'll take 90 instead of 85. Like they all want to cheat a little bit, but they want to leave this little bit of room for scholarships. But there seems to be this – if somebody just decides that they're going to offer 105 scholarships, then we might have to offer – 105 scholarships and sorry walk-ons. And I think it's interesting because the SEC, we talk about the implementation of the no transfer within SEC schools in the spring. But they're also one of the only conferences that have implemented a 85 scholarship limit. And I'm watching these other schools, and I wonder what it looks like. The Big Ten's won the last 2 national championships. If they win a third, and Ohio State does it this year with 105 scholarship players, or 100 scholarship players, or 95 scholarship players, the SEC is not going to sit back and just keep letting that go, I would have to think. So it is interesting to watch the different schools in different conferences with different rules approach this new thing. If you're Ohio State, maybe you can afford to recruit some guys out of Missouri State if they're going to be your 86th, 87th, 88th, 89th, and 90th scholarship player. Then you're saying, no, we don't even really care. We're just trying to hit home runs. We're buying lottery tickets. But, we're able to do so because we went beyond 85. Texas can't do that. They're at 83. They got 2 to spend. If they want to spend more than that, they'll need more players to leave.
All right, so that's the math of the situation right now. If y'all want to throw us a chat, feel free. So, Catch, as we sit here today, what's next? What's next for you? Who's next for Texas? We're at day 6 of the portal. It closes up on Friday for guys to get in. As we always say, you can get out whenever you want after that, but there's a few more days here. What are you hearing about what the next target might be for Texas now that they, again, have addressed all those rooms that he referenced, plus now because of the kicker situation, he's addressed that situation as well?
I think wide receiver. I think they're still looking for – I think they looked at Emmett Mosley and said, we just like that guy. He's really good. He had an excellent freshman season. We know him from his high school days. I think they took him just because they think he's a guy that can play for us and be really good, an NFL player. But I think there's still a need to find a guy that can take the top off a defense. So I get the sense at wide receiver, they're still treating that position a little bit like they have in December windows. For instance, there's a kick returner out of BYU who was first-team All-American a year ago. And Texas is really interested in that kid, but they haven't offered. Well, he's an All-American kick returner. I think he could give them depth at wide receiver. I don't know that it's a perfect match for what their needs are, but they haven't offered him yet, but they're in communication with him. I think there's a sense that they might believe that there are still a name or two at wide receiver that will enter the portal that hasn't yet, that's causing them to be stingy with the current wide receiver market that exists. And I point to the BYU example as the main one. They like that kid. And he has like 25 offers, but Texas isn't one of them. But Texas is in the conversation. So I think they're talking to him about, hey, we like you, but we need you to wait on us a little bit. And they may even be transparent about it. There's somebody that we're waiting on. Our numbers are tight. But if you want to catch passes from Arch Manning and return kicks for a top 3 program, like, we're interested. And that sounds different than probably the pitches elsewhere. And I think this Marine Watson kid out of Syracuse is a guy that I think they would have a real interest in.
He's in the portal now? Or is he?
Yes. Marad.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And he's a guy that, again, young player, not an older guy, but really emerged in the second half of last season. I know that when Alex has watched film of him, he's like, whoa, this guy he's a different animal than maybe some of the guys that they've also been looking at. Specifically, Alex watched Levon Johnson and Marad Watson and was like, okay, well, those two guys aren't the same thing. So I think Watson would be – Watson's currently viewed as one of the top 4 or 5 guys available in the portal, period, as things currently stand. So I think those would be the 2 areas. I think if more scholarships become available, I still think if you could find a speedster at running back, I don't know that those exist. Michigan, I just saw in the last hour, they picked up a second – Chad, they picked up a commitment this weekend. Michigan did. Let me see if I can remember what the kid's name is. Oh, God. They took a small school running back, and then today they took another small school running back in John Volker from Princeton. So it's raining small school running backs in Michigan.
Small school guys.
Small school guys. I thought they were bringing in both of those guys and going to use one against the other, first guy to commit kind of a thing.
Right.
And
they got them
both of them, which Michigan doesn't have to deal with scholarship limits. So if they want to take a couple of small school running backs with these extra scholarships, they have what they're doing, I think, is different than what Oklahoma is doing. Oklahoma's taking these guys to fit in their 85. And I'm not – when you look, Michigan took 2 small school running backs, and those guys may not even contribute. Like, they're total wild cards. They would like help at running back, but neither of these guys is definitely coming in to be a starter. They're hoping that one of these guys is a contributor. But when you have 105 spots and there are no scholarship limitations, and you're used to working with 85, you can take a few more chances. And it is, again, one of the things, it's not really being talked about nationally right now. Like, I keep track of the Texas scholarships in a way that I don't see anybody else anywhere keep track of other schools' scholarships.
Yep. That's why I brought it up.
I have no idea how many scholarships Ohio State and Michigan are at right now.
Right.
What I do know is I watched the Nebraska coach this weekend talk about, well, we may not have much of a walk-on program if we're forced to contend and counter with what our primary competition does. And he was just saying the quiet part out loud, which is, I know you guys want us to have a bunch of homegrown Nebraska guys on as walk-ons, but you guys also want us to win. And it would help us to win to have 10 more scholarship players, especially if our competition has 10 more scholarship players.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the end, you think the Ohio States and Michigans of the world are going to land somewhere right at 100? Right in that range?
They can.
Yeah.
I think they'll keep taking players that they think can help them potentially.
Yeah. Speaking of
potentially.
Speaking of they can, many people might think this is an impossibility, but it's not. You can be Boomer Kid 918 and give us a super chat. That's possible. Thank you for $9.99, Boomer Kid. Oh. Jump in the chat, say some crazy stuff, say that we're obsessed with the Sooners, and then throw us some $9.99. We hope you're having a good day. Boomer Kid 918.
Well, what did he say?
There you go. Other than that, I didn't see any specifics. There was a chat that said that we were obsessed with the Sooners.
Wait till tomorrow.
Yes. And said that Sark is a 7-win coach who can't beat the big dogs. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's an interesting, y'all can dig through that on the chat if you want.
I mean, sometimes I appreciate the 9.9. I don't know what we're supposed to do with that.
Yes. Thank you, Boomer Kid. We appreciate that. We also appreciate the rest of you, over 630 of you in that Specs chat. Let's give Specs their love. Unlike the Boomer Kid, Specs, they're focused on Texas.
As a Texas family-owned business, we know you don't mess with Texas. And you won't find more ways to raise a glass of Texas-made cheer than right here. So whatever you're planning, we're ready to get you ready. Because at Specs, the fun starts here.
All right, so Catch, you were mentioning the, I guess, I mean, it's the contrast in a way between the way Texas is handling their business here and even what Georgia and Ohio State are doing. So this question pops in my head. As Texas is going through this, do you feel like if I'm Ohio State and Georgia, am I just resigned to the fact? Do I just somehow learn that, well, Texas is in on, let's take the tight end. Texas is in on the, on the kid from Cal. So we're not even going to mess with it. We got to move on. Like, is that kind of the way it's going? But then even if that's the way it's going, why does it go from the Cal tight end level to the guys they're looking at? To the point you're making here. Why does the drop-off happen?
Look, here's how
there's 3,000 freaking guys in this portal.
Some positions have more talent than others.
Yeah.
And look, let me read you in my own rankings. Let me read you the top 6 available defensive tackles. Now, this is a working list.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of guys have committed, so like they've gone off, but this is what's left.
Okay.
Number 1, Murad Watson out of Syracuse. And I just saw an update on 24/7 where they have him ranked as the number 1 available defensive lineman and the number 1 overall player.
Wow. Okay.
And they list Texas as the top school. So he's number 1. Number 2 is a kid named Cedric Smith out of Alabama A&M who visited Georgia and will visit Georgia Tech.
Wow.
Number 3 is a kid named Troy Pikes from Georgia Southern, who visited Georgia, is visiting Ohio State, Maryland, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. Number 4 is Jalen Stone. This is a kid that visited Oklahoma. He's from Southeast Missouri State. He's visiting OU, Kentucky, and Illinois. There's a kid named Elijah St. John from Long Island and a kid named Carter Hewitt from Northern Iowa. I don't have a lot of it. That's what we're working with.
Damn. Okay. Gotcha.
And so again, like Levon Johnson ends up looking a certain kind of way when it's like, well, was he great at Maryland? No. Was he a good young player? Yeah. Is that in the Big Ten? It is. Okay. Who's next? And I'll give you an example. Like I saw this. I'll give 24/7 the credit. I was just on their website because I saw that there was a update that they had on Murad Watson that I wanted to see. So they've got an update on Jalen Stone, who's number 4 on my available defensive tackles list out of Southeast Missouri State. Here's what the blurb on Jalen Stone on 24/7 says. Stone had been set to visit Oklahoma, but will now visit Vanderbilt instead. Stone, who has already had visits locked in with Kentucky and Illinois, had the 3rd best run defense grade among FCS interior defenders last year per Football Focus or Pro Football Focus.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, if Oklahoma doesn't sign him, he'll probably end up at Vanderbilt or Kentucky or Illinois. And this is for a guy that comes with no guarantee on the box. I do think Sark is a little bit of the old guy in Tommy Boy. He wants the guarantee on the box. And coming from a major conference school feels, I think, for Sark, like a guy has a little bit of a guarantee on the box. It's like, well, look.
Because so far, he got 3 of those in the first portal and now 1 of them in this portal. At D-line, a D tackle specifically, I guess, right? He got 4 of those guys, all from Power 4s.
Well, and I think he takes a guy like Bill Norton and says, I know this guy's not going to be a star, but I know exactly who he is.
Right. He is the body I'm looking for.
You never know with the small school guys what they truly are. You have no idea whether or not a guy who had the 3rd best run defense grade among FCS players, and you're just using who for Pro Football Focus is grading FCS players. Who does that? That's one of Alex's big nitpicks is that you never know who does the grades for Pro Football Focus. They could have 100 graders doing a variety of games. I have to believe that the lowest level of Pro Football Focus's grades is going to FCS players. Like, I can't imagine the Mel Kiper Jr. of Pro Football Focus is watching a lot of Southeast Missouri State film on Sunday mornings to get that done.
Never know.
You do never know. It could be the guy that's their Mel Kiper Jr. is from Southeast Missouri State and just loves to do that video. I don't know. But
they call him elite direction guy. They put him on all the directions.
Take the FCS Pro Football Focus rankings with a grain of salt. Yeah. I have no idea what it means for them to rank an FCS guy as the 3rd best run grade defensive guy. But there are schools that are interested in, like, they have to be. And you know where they have Jalen Stone ranked right now? The number 2 available defensive lineman.
Man, that is
it's already so thin that we're looking at that particular position. It's just tough sledding. There just aren't a lot of guys that are available.
That is crazy. That is just wild. All right. We did get a super chat in while you were talking. $10. Look at our man Wes throwing us 10. What's up, Wes? Says, whew, I heard Marcel Reed had a rough spring game. Just thought that was funny. Good to see you guys. I'm not sure I exactly get your humor, Wes, in what you're saying. Good to hear from you, Wes. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Appreciate you. Appreciate you there. Yes. I guess those. Yeah, I guess the wave of spring games were this past weekend. I have not seen the full report on.
I don't even think I saw a highlight of anything that happened in a spring, which was kind of funny given all of the conversations about them.
I know, exactly. There was a lot going on. I was traveling and stuff over the weekend, so I need to take advantage of the SEC network and go back and check it all out, Wes. I will do that when I get a chance. If you guys want to throw us a super chat like Wes did, feel free. Obviously, talking a lot of portal today. Texas makes moves over the weekend, and Ketch, you made the point. I mean, everything was done by Friday at 9. I mean,
it happened in a blur.
It was so quick that everything got done with for injuries to be.
I would not be surprised if Murad Watson comes off. He's been keeping a kind of low profile. There have not been any reports of him being on visits. I have a feeling that kid's sneaking in somewhere for a visit. Wouldn't surprise me at all if in the next 24, 48 hours that kid announces that he's signing with Texas. And then I think Texas would feel like its defensive line needs have been met. So that is the one I'm keeping the closest eye on right now.
Yeah. That'll be that's obviously going to be one to follow closely. Texas gets injuries, Shipley and Johnson over the weekend, and 4 or 5 days left here. We're sitting on the 21st, so I guess it's technically 4 days left now of the
on Friday.
4 days left to get in, and then obviously you can get out whenever you like in the portal. A lot of wild stories going around there, but Texas definitely doing what they need to do and setting things up, Catch, the way they need to. Let me ask you this: because we've talked about that winter portal. As we're sitting here right now, I think we would both agree Sark is handling the spring portal pretty well. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very well, yes.
Based on that, we've discussed it. You've discussed it. We've had the, Brandon Harris discussions. Does there need to be somebody else discussions? Is there a GM job or something else? Based on what we're seeing here in the spring, where it feels like Texas fans can say, in Sark, we trust in a big way. What's the tweak for the wintertime? What's that tweak? Like, I was thinking about it today. Is the one thing you'd tell them in winter, well, maybe you should have pushed for Claire, the tight end. Like, is that that type of adjustment? What would you tell them needs to happen in the winter portal to make it match the spring portal?
Well, I think it's a good question. I think the one thing that they'll come away knowing is that they escaped the Claire situation by being able to get Jack injuries. And who knows, maybe if they don't get Jack injuries, there's a player below, then it's just gone down a list. I don't know. But that was very fortuitous that happened. They could be sitting there without a tight end right now, and only guys from Middle Tennessee State are available. We know Sark doesn't want to do that. So I think the lesson is take nothing for granted moving forward.
Right. Because to your stat earlier, the idea that they are number 1 and 2, and you said yards by tight ends coming back. Okay. The idea that the number 1 guy was in the portal that quick and got taken, but the number 2 guy wasn't eventually in the portal until that second wave. Like, Texas obviously takes advantage of that, but there was obviously a chance that injuries could have jumped in the winter as well. It could have happened, and maybe they miss on both of them. So I just wonder if is it that they're, dealing with everything else, and maybe they aren't seeing the portal the exact same way.
What will I tell them? Don't be in the playoffs.
Well, no, you can't do that. Because
the thing that really that slowed them down was just roster management. And I cannot say that they did that poorly. They didn't lose anybody.
Right.
And they knew that they were going to have dozens of conversations when the season ended. But they didn't want to have those. So maybe
it's really, think about it, Catch. It's really the team that beat them ultimately that is the goal in a lot of ways. Obviously, they're trying to beat that team, but Ohio State ends up dealing with the winter portal. They did end up getting a guy like Claire, and they also ended up winning a national title. Like, they handled all of it. They juggled everything.
Also didn't do as much early business as they did the year before. So
okay.
Claire is the big addition that Ohio State got in the portal. But here, let me go.
But they didn't do 4 or 5 of them, is what you're saying.
I'll tell you what. Let me go into the Rivals portal rankings right now, okay?
Okay.
Because I think this is an important piece of the conversation when we talk about Ohio State. I'm now scrolling down, looking for a Buckeyes logo. I see a Georgia logo, but they were done early. They were able to go get Emmanuel Noah Thomas out of A&M.
Right. That was early. And they got – did they get the Branch kid? Or no, that was at LSU. Who got Zachariah Branch? That was Georgia too, right? Okay, they got the 2 receivers. All right.
Ohio State, as far as I can tell, and I'm still scrolling. I don't know why. Let me see if – okay. So it looks like Ohio State has one top 100 portal guy this year in the Rivals rankings, and that's Claire. That nobody else that they signed was – what we remember last year is that they went out and got Will Howard. They went out and got Judkins from Mississippi. That they went out who's the third guy? There were 3 big portal additions that they signed, but they all made huge impacts. They weren't able to – and all of those guys came in the early portal a year ago for Ohio State. Ohio State, like Texas – and they had to wait an extra week because the ultimatum is, look, either you do it the week after the season ends because your players know that is really when the portal opening, that they have that luxury. Or
5-day window. Yeah.
Or you're negotiating dozens of NIL deals with players during the playoffs. Those are your only 2 choices.
Yeah. Right.
And the difference between Georgia and Texas and Ohio State this year.
Good job, Big Cheddar. That's the other one you were thinking of. This is the other one you were thinking of, right? Caleb Downs from Bama.
Yep. Oops, I forgot about Caleb Downs.
He made a play or 2, Big Cheddar. He made a play or 2.
He's good. So they had those. So, I don't know that any of the Texas, Ohio, look, Georgia is Zachariah Branch. Look, here are the top 10 portal guys according to the Rivals rankings. And this is why I think this looks different than a year ago.
Okay.
Number 1 is Nico Iamaleava, UCLA. Number 2 is Carson Beck, Miami. Number 3 is John Mateer, the quarterback, Oklahoma. Number 4 is Zachariah Branch, Georgia. Number 5, Kevin Concepcion, Texas A&M. Number 6, Eric Singleton Jr., Auburn. Number 7, Dylan Theismann, Purdue, goes to Oregon. David Stone took himself out. Williams Nwarni is an edge player who signed with Nebraska. Deuce Robinson went to Florida State. I don't know that the national championship's going to – unless Zachariah Branch goes big this year, I don't think we're going to look at the portal this year and say the star players went to only the big dog schools. I didn't mention Texas's name either.
Right.
So this is the year where every school had NIL money to spend, which is why if I'm looking at the Rivals rankings, you have to go all the way. Auburn signed 2 of the top 13 guys, and Nebraska signed 2 of the top 15 guys, and Oregon signed 2 of the top 16 guys. But they're not of the level of players that we're talking about. They're just not. This year's portal's not as star-studded as last year's.
Right.
Will that change in the future? We'll have to see. But I think we got to look at what it looks like when teams have $15 to $20 million to spend on NIL, and the schools are expected to support the overall heavy lifting of that.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's a great point. And then to Cotton's point, said, we could have used Branch. He's one of those type of guys, Cotton, that type of, we talked receiver with Texas back then, and it didn't happen. So a guy like Branch.
But it would have taken over $1 million to get Zachariah Branch. Plus he has a twin brother.
Well, you got to bring the brother. I get it. Yeah, I get it. But it is one of those names.
And if they had gone after Zachariah Branch that early, who knows what that would have done for their NIL negotiations with players on the team? Because Ryan Wingo could just say, well, look, I was better than him as a true freshman. So
right.
Last year I made this year pay me 1.5. I'm better than Zachariah Branch.
Right. And as we move forward, I'll still keep saying what Michelle is saying here. I do think the one last year is going to end up as an anomaly. Saban retiring and so much coach turnover is a huge reason the portal was so stacked last year. Michelle, I agree with you. And I think as time goes by, that one's just going to blink in a different way. You cannot expect that to happen every single year. Maybe the greatest
coach. A major conference school.
Yeah.
It wasn't that there was a bunch of coaching turnover. It was that it happened at Alabama.
Right.
And plus one of the top 3 most talented programs in the country.
Right. And then you add in that A&M fallout.
All the trickle down from
those two.
We're going to see less head coaching changes moving forward. Schools are going to be terrified at losing their rosters.
Yeah, because you can tell me coaches will change every year. That's true. But the greatest coach maybe that's ever coached the game isn't going to retire the same year that a class that was rated number 1 all time will fall apart because a coach gets fired before the season's over. Those two things in the same year, that's not going to happen. That is not going to consistently happen. So I think that's why that one's always going to be different. But we'll obviously keep our eyes on. Well,
look, man, it says something that Nico Iamaleava is the number 1 player, and that Carson Beck is the number 2 player in the portal.
Oh yeah, as inconsistent as both of those guys have been at times. When you think about their down of the roller coaster, what it can look like. That says a lot that they are.
Because we knew that I don't think we knew that Cam Ward was going to be the number 1 maybe player in the draft or 2 or 3. But we knew that the team that signed Cam Ward was expecting to get a star on some level.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what this is. There's no Caleb Downs in the portal from this year.
Doesn't feel like it. No Walter Nolan, no Evan Stewart. Doesn't quite feel like those names again, does it?
I don't even think there's – look, say what you want to, but Zachariah Branch is no Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond was a super productive player on a starting player on a playoff team that caught one of the most famous catches in the history of Alabama football.
Yeah, you're right.
That is not who Zachariah Branch or Kevin Concepcion or even Eric Singleton are. They're good players, but Isaiah Bond came to Texas and they were talking about him as well. He may be a first-round pick next year. Now, I don't really want to go down the Pandora's box of Isaiah Bond and what the hell's happening with his draft stock. That's another show. But Adonai Mitchell is another example. It's like, oh, that guy's a starter at Georgia. He's caught a bunch of touchdowns in playoff games. That is not what's been in the portal this year. I think next year teams will have a more exhausted set of financial resources to work with. And so it might look a little different because the schools that have been spending freely this year will just have less money next year. There's just no way to get around that.
Got a little super chat that H-Dog snuck in on us. Thank you for that $4.99 H-Dog. Catch, I asked you a couple months back, is this a national championship team? And you said no. After some portal moves, do you stand on that answer?
They're closer. Here's the thing I would say, though, H-Dog. I don't know that I think anybody's a national championship team yet. Ohio State has a ton of turnover. Georgia's quarterback situation sucks. I'm stunned that they're rolling with that guy as opposed to, I don't know, man. I guess they couldn't have gone after Nico, but so I don't know who I think is national championship team good. I think I felt a little more sure about Ohio State last year. I think I knew a little bit more of like, this is who Georgia is. I think I feel like I know more about who Texas is than I do those teams, but I wonder if that's just because I cover Texas. And so I would have like a hyper knowledge of the ins and outs of their program and roster. I thought they were a playoff team before last week. I think they made themselves significantly better last week. Starting wide receiver, starting tight end, starting kicker, Oh, by the way, they got rid of a guy, place kicker, who made 64% of his kicks last year in general, and less than 50% from 40 yards or out. And they bring in a guy who has a career 89% field goal percentage. So, that's an upgrade. Now, this guy suck in front of 100,000 people? He could, but on paper, that's a significant upgrade. And then I think even with a guy like Levon Johnson, I won't get carried away with what role I think he'll have on this team, but he's coming from a major Power 5, Power 4 conference, was likely going to be a starter, and it kept Texas from having to go to some of these other places where it's like, is that guy definitely going to help you? Don't know. Well, why don't you know? Because he's never practiced against a player as good as he is. That's the problem with going to the FCS for guys, is that they are universally the best guys on their team, and oftentimes the best that they'll ever see anywhere. And at Texas, like, everybody can play. And it's the hard when a guy like Javion Cole comes in from San Jose State, he doesn't get to play against Mountain West competition anymore or San Jose State competition anymore. He has to play against guys at Texas that are national top 50, 100 guys that are trying. Not even all of those guys hit. So it's tough sledding.
H-Dog, thank you for the super chat. We appreciate you. Mark, thank you for just throwing something in the old tip jar. A little 199er. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate it. If you have another question or comment, you can do that. Otherwise, if it was just a contribution, we do appreciate that. Apparently, that Aggie spring game is on SEC Network right now, if people want to check that out. And apparently, others are going to be in rotation. There were a few spring games last weekend. This coming weekend for you Texas fans, remember, there's no spring game, but there's a fan fest. There's fan events going on. So check out probably texassports.com, best place to go to find out all that info. I think I saw something today where they're laying out everything that's going to be going on. I'm sure there'll be a Longhorn City limits and all that good stuff. So check that out. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I'm looking at the Rivals defensive tackle rankings. Because David Stone is now out of the rankings.
Mm-hmm.
Murad Watson, according to the Rivals rankings, which were just updated today, he's the second best defensive tackle in the portal period. That the best guy was Keyshawn Silver, who was a starter at Kentucky and transferred to USC. And they've got Watson listed number 2. So it's like there's nobody else. And do you know what that means? That guy's going to be so expensive. He is viewed much higher than I think Dominic Williams was a year ago.
I was just thinking of that name, yeah.
So I think, you know what Texas's big problem with Murad Watson might be is just that the word is out. Oh, my God, there's a guy. Schools that won't have known who Murad Watson is will go, well, geez, we'd like some of that. And so I wonder if that kid thought on Saturday that he was going one place, and on Monday is wondering, maybe I need to take some visits.
Chris, I see your super chat. We will get to that. We got buy or sell coming right up. Also, let's talk about one of my favorite places to go eat, and that is Hayes City Store. You've heard me talk about them before. This weekend, I had a good experience of the difference between like and love. We went to a Mexican food place, and we had chips and salsa, chips and dips, that kind of thing, chips and queso. It was good. I liked it. But I didn't love it the way I love Hayes City Store and the home run dip. It's one of my favorite appetizers on planet Earth. The chips are probably about the best I've ever had. I cannot think of chips right now off the top of my head that I'd say, yes, they're definitely better than Hayes City Store. The queso is incredible. The guac is great. The salsa is awesome. And yes, that bean dip is gourmet, badass, good bean dip. It's just unbelievable. It's a great way to start your meal. The food is excellent all the way through, from the burgers to the pizza to those pork chops I always talk about, all the way through to the key lime pie or the berries heaven. The drinks are amazing. Whether you're, more of a liquor fan, they've got a frozen margarita flight that you can do, or if you want to do a great beer, do some whiskey, whatever you love. I'm a vodka guy. Y'all know that. They do plenty of drinks out there with that as well. So go out, have a great time. Enjoy this wonderful spring weather we're getting right now. Make sure you get your reservation, because a lot of people already know about it. Get on out to Hayes City Store. Tell them we said hey here at Orange Bloods Live. All right. Let's see. We had a super chat come in from Chris, I believe it was. Thank you, Chris, for a $5 super chat. Would Jonah be the first to win a natty in baseball and football? I'm assuming you mean that as a Longhorn doing it.
I don't know.
I don't either, Catch. I can't remember a situation where that would have come up for Texas. Chris, the closest thing I can think of in the country was at the time Jameis Winston was winning the natty in football for Florida State. He was also their closer, and they were like Omaha good, but they didn't win it all. That's a guy I can think of that kind of got close, but I don't know the answer to that of a Longhorn that won baseball.
I can give you one college football player.
Okay.
That according to Google's AI overview.
Yeah.
Chad Jones won a football national championship at LSU in 2003, and then later won the College World Series with LSU in 2007 as a pitcher.
Wow.
That's the only one that the Google search provided.
That's incredible. And there's one, isn't there one right now? What am I thinking of? Wasn't there somebody recently that was like lacrosse? Oh, it was a Notre Dame guy. That's what it was. There was a guy on Notre Dame's football team who had won the championship in lacrosse, I think. And then obviously they were playing for it in football.
Yeah.
But that wasn't obviously football, baseball, but just as a kind of example of two sports there. Chris, that's a good question. Jonah certainly had a great first start over the weekend. And I'm
going to say that the answer would be yes if it's at the same school.
Yeah, I would think so. It's certainly been the first time at Texas I would have ever heard about it. Like, yeah, I don't ever remember.
All right, let's do buy or sell because I have something I definitely want to ask you.
Fair enough. All right, you want to go first or second?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Buy or sell number one, Cal transfer tight end Jack Injuries will post numbers in the Gunnar Helm range, which would mean an average of about 4 receptions and 50 yards per game.
I will buy that when the totals end up that close, like 60 catches Helm, 56 for Injuries. He feels like about that kind of guy, and we know Sark is going to use the tight ends. The word is out. They know all about it. The high school guys know about it. So, yeah, I'll buy. I'll say he's in that area. He's got to be for that offense to run.
Buy or sell number two, if there are only 2 scholarships left for the Longhorns, you'd go offensive line and wide receiver. And Murad Watson, maybe he's the starter. I don't know.
Sell. I think I'd make it another D. I think I'd make it another D lineman. You got to have 2 D linemen stand up like these last 2 waves have. And it's hard to ask for a Sweat Murphy to be followed by Collins and Broughton to be followed by something. I think you need to give another guy an opportunity to do that. So I'm going to sell and say D line.
It sounds like to me somebody's ass needs to get into the portal so that Texas can take 3 or 4 more guys.
Yeah.
I'm saying. Buy or sell number 3. Matthew Golden will be the first Texas player drafted on Thursday night.
This should be a sell, but it's gonna be a buy. I don't understand it. I think it should be Banks, but I'm gonna buy that it will be Golden.
Could be Barron.
I don't think it's
gonna, 7.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be. I think it's gonna be Golden. I think it'll be Golden.
Buy or sell number 4. Marcel Reed is not an A&M player that you worry about.
Sell. I'm constantly worried about the quarterback. Okay. Even if the quarterback's awesome, I'm constantly worried about the quarterback. But right now, specifically, Catch, with that team, I am worried about the quarterback and how it meshes with the offensive coordinator, with the offensive setup, and just with everything, around it. He had moments. He certainly had moments last year, but there was also kind of an oops, it's our quarterback kind of a thing to him. So there's still some worry there.
I don't know if you've noticed, but nobody seems to be worried about Arch.
Yes, that's true. There's only one kind of worry about Arch, and I will not say it out loud.
And finally, buy or sell number 5. with not quite 24 hours left to reflect on WrestleMania 41, you think WrestleMania was no more than a 5 on a 1 to 10 scale this weekend?
Oh my God. Damn, Rotten Tomatoes. That's a hard scoring system. That's a sell. I'm not going to go that. I am not going to say that was a 50% kind of a WrestleMania. Overall, I was entertained. I thought there were some really good matches. The way that the Cena-Cody match ended is, I think, going to affect a lot of people in the way they look at it. But I was entertained overall. I thought there was some good stuff in there. I would give it, like, overall, I would certainly get it into like a B area. In totality. I would not call it a failing WrestleMania. People
now, should I give my opinion, or do you have a WrestleMania question for me?
I have a WrestleMania. I do have a WrestleMania one for you, but you can give your opinion now. Either way, whatever you want to do.
I'll wait.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. To me, WrestleMania becomes like sometimes the latest Marvel movie or Star Wars movie. Like some people, it has to be the greatest one that was ever created.
I'm going to explain myself in a second,
or it's got to be total garbage.
And then I'll give you my hot take.
Yeah. Okay. All righty here. Let's start with this one, Catch. Buy or sell number 1. Great minds think alike. The next 2 portal gets for Texas will be another D tackle and another wide receiver.
I think that's a buy, but it's not what I would do.
You go O-line.
I just would have the same level of urgency at the interior of the offensive line as they have on the interior of the defensive line. Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Catch, buy or sell number 2. You watched less than 30 minutes of the NBA playoffs this weekend.
Buy. You misspelled 3. I didn't watch a single minute of a single NBA game. I knew what was going on because I was constantly just getting updates on my social media streams, but I didn't watch anything.
All right, how about that? You good? Now we're good. Still a buy?
Still a buy. I'm telling you. You could have wrote 30 seconds. I didn't watch any NBA playoff games this weekend.
That is crazy. All right, Catch, buy or sell number 3. Birthday time. Tony Romo is 45 today. You still know where he went to college. Buy or sell?
Oh, God. He went to... Oh, my God. Why am I not remembering this? It's in Illinois. Just tell me. I don't want to torture myself.
You are correct. It is in Illinois. It's in a particular area of Illinois.
Just fucking say it.
It's Eastern Illinois.
I wasn't going to get that if I had 1,000 guesses.
Also the alma mater of Sean Payton, for those.
I knew it wasn't Illinois State. I did know that.
Yeah. All right, Catch, here's your WrestleMania moment. Buy or sell number 4. You watched a good bit of WrestleMania. Best match, the men's triple threat. Best performance, Paul Heyman.
Ooh. Sell. LA Knight was amazing on night 1. No, I'm just kidding.
I would love it if you stood on a line for LA Knight.
I guess I'll go by. The triple threat match was the best match.
Okay.
Paul Heyman, Paul Heyman, I don't know. He stole the show. The most positive, memorable thing that came from the weekend was the Saturday main event.
Right.
So I will say bye.
Yeah.
I think the main event on Sunday is the worst WrestleMania main event I've ever seen.
Oh, wow. Now that is hyperbole.
I thought the action made both men look terrible. I thought
it was not great.
I thought Cena looked, you know what? As many times as I've seen Ric Flair roll his old ass out into the ring, and I would know, well, this guy doesn't need to be wrestling guys who are 30 years. He can't beat these guys. But I never thought to myself, he shouldn't be in the ring. He can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that about Cena. Where it was like, oh, man, this is so of a watered down version of his best. And in order to get anything out of him, they just had him like body their number one star all over the ring for like 10 minutes. It was nothing but clotheslines and just shoulder blocks and things. And it was like, this is it. Cena would do something. He'd go and sit on the turnbuckle for like 30 seconds. Then he would do a single move. And then he would like repeat the process over and over. And I just kept thinking to myself, this is making Rhodes look like such a chump.
They turned it into a Brock Lesnar match, and I didn't think that was going to be the plan. Like, why does that need to be a squash match? It's Cody Rhodes. He's not awesome, but he's better than that.
He's a better worker than that, but they made him look like
they made him. Yeah.
I thought he came out of that looking as poor as he looked good at the WrestleMania previous to this.
Catch, by the end of the match, the crowd booed him.
I don't think he would ever put the strap on him again after that match.
The crowd booed him, and the pop for Cena was one thing, but I was amazed that there was some boos for Cody by the end of the match.
Everything about the ring work was not good.
No, it was. You could feel the gears turning in both of their heads. The chemistry was bad. You know what it felt like to me, Catch? Remember when Tyrone Swoops would throw out routes? Like 15-yard deep outs.
That's where I had the question. Look, the main event of WrestleMania can't be a Tyrone Swoops out route, and then the idea that I give it a 5 on a 1 to 10 seems outlandish. If you're comparing the main event to Tyrone Swoops throwing an out route, I may have gone too high at 5.
I can't go. I can't take the whole thing to a 5 because again, you know me. I'm a wrestling nerd. There was some really good stuff in other matches.
Hold on, I'm not done.
That counterbalanced it.
Not having The Rock there made it even more egregious.
Oh, that was silly. Yeah, that was silly.
Travis Scott come out, little ass Travis Scott.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I didn't understand the Travis Scott thing the first time. I really didn't get it this time.
Oh, and then the worst part, and this is why Rhodes got booed, because the ending of having him refuse to hit Cena with the belt, only to have Cena hit him with the belt, is the most contrived. In a world where the WWE has gone out of its way to blur the lines between good and evil, in 2025, they ended a bad main event with the champion losing his belt because he didn't want to hit John Cena over the head with a belt after everything Cena had done. It wasn't a 5, Chad. It was a 3.
See, that match, I'll agree with you, gets down into that area. The rest of it helped to bring it back, bring the grade back up. If you want to say to me that match ends up like a failing record, a failing grade, I would absolutely buy that. That definitely.
As a mainstream, I can't call myself a wrestling fan anymore. Like, I know what's happening at the top of cards.
Right.
But most of the other matches, especially when they went tag teams, I'm just like,
yeah. Well, the thing is, again, for a fan like you specifically, but for all of us, it was about those 2 main events. They both needed to be great. I thought they both had a chance to be great.
I enjoyed I didn't know who the guy was in the Randy Orton deal. Right. But I enjoyed that. Like that felt like WrestleMania.
But also because, and I remember I had the feeling, Catch, after I saw what occurred Saturday night, my next thought was, uh-oh. Because I knew the 2 men that were having to cover that. And I thought, okay, first off, The Rock really has to do some heavy lifting. And then he never shows up. But then I also know that
how do you even go with that storyline if he's not going to be at WrestleMania?
Right. But then Catch, that at their best, at their absolute elite best, Cena versus Cody is good versus pretty good. And you really needed both of them to show up, show out, give him a good story, let Cody help him out, let Cody help Cena, and they didn't do it at all. They told Cody to lay down for Cena, and it's like, lay down.
I have a new appreciation for Jey Uso.
Jey Uso?
After WrestleMania.
Yeah, right. Oh, God, that match was 10 times better than the Cena
I
match.
came away. It was like, okay, well, I get why people are jacked up about him a little bit.
Yeah, he puts on a good show.
With, I've never seen a champion. You know, you go back and you watch like the Flair Von Erich Texas Stadium match.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back and watch it now as an older wrestling fan, you can see why Kerry wasn't good enough to win the belt at the time.
Oh, yeah. No, Rick had to really help Kerry out that day.
You know, you watch that match now with grown-up eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just like, Jesus, Rick is doing a lot in that match. Like, good on him for going to Irving and doing that because he didn't have to do that.
No.
And I'm not one of these guys that's like the wrestling wasn't good enough. I was watching those guys communicate to themselves the moves. And at one point,
you could see it, yeah. When Cena kept saying again, Cena, he does the punch and he said, again. It's like, it's not supposed to be that obvious, John.
Well, when Cena goes with that finishing move, the crossbar move,
yes.
I don't know what it's called.
The STFU.
He didn't even have it around his face at one point.
Yeah, no, he kind of misplaced it one time. You're absolutely right.
At one point, Cody's not even getting his head pulled back. And he's like, ah! It just, the whole thing was, I can't say that the WrestleMania, and here's the thing, it was so bad, Chad, when they went to credits, I didn't believe it. I was like, oh, there has to be more. This is going to be like a Marvel's movie.
Yeah. Did you see the crowd at times at the end stand up and look for The Rock? Like there were people in the first 10 rows. Like they sensed that the moment was there when Travis Scott was in the ring and they're like, oh, they're like, this is going to be it. This is it. And they're looking and it's like, no. And then they go, and I'm with you. As they were closing, I thought, wait, where's The Rock's music?
I waited until I watched the credits, Chad, because I was like, there's going to be more.
Oh, it's so sad. It's so sad that we care this much, isn't it?
Well, I just have never watched a WrestleMania and got to the end of WrestleMania and been like, usually when WrestleMania is over, I'm like, okay, that was like 4 hours of wrestling. I'm good. I got everything I needed.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on there.
It's the first time I've ever watched WrestleMania. It was like, whoa. You're ending it? It's over? It's over. You had 2 nights? I watched like 8 hours? It's over?
It's done? That's it?
Where's The Rock? Why does Travis Scott coming out even mean anything?
That was bizarre. I'm with you. That was
Come on,
that was
Hunter.
bad.
You got into the Hall of Fame this weekend. And I'm glad he went into the Hall of Fame on Friday night because they should have revoked his membership after the WrestleMania he produced. Sorry, Hunter.
I'm trying to focus on the men's triple. That's why I put it in here. I'm just trying to focus on that triple threat.
That was a great match and moment, though.
Paul Heyman's the double cross from Paul Heyman. I smiled through that whole damn thing. Well done, Paul Heyman. Finally,
when it's over with, you can see, okay, that's an interesting storyline moving forward.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
The main event ended, and I was like, I don't care if I ever see either of these dudes ever again.
Yeah.
I will never look at Cody Rhodes. Yeah. I've always looked at Cody Rhodes and thought, that guy's not as good as the best I've ever seen. The best. Right. And I've been like, okay, but he's okay. Last night they made him look like a chump and he accepted it. And now he's the chump that lost to old ass John Cena and really got his ass kicked.
Well, that's the problem is you waited 10 years. You went 10 years with a clunky wrestler and you let the clunky wrestler drive the car. That's what I would say to Hunter today was his biggest mistake. Whether it was Hunter's decision catch or whoever, there's talk about whose decision this ultimately was, but that's the mistake. Letting Cena drive that car. You can't do it that way. That'd be like letting Roman drive the triple threat. That's why was the triple threat wasn't great because of Roman. It was great because of all three of them. It was great because those other two guys can work.
Him winning the belt for the 17th time should have felt magnanimous.
Yeah.
It should have. And instead, it fell super flat because they failed to pull it off. Okay, I'm done.
Yep, there you go. But, of course, there are those that would tell you that John Cena is the greatest of all time. Y'all go have that conversation somewhere else. The adults are trying to have a conversation here. Speaking of the adults having a conversation, Catch, I don't think we've ever had this one. Let's do it. Buy or sell number 5. Carmen Electra is 53 yesterday. Prime on prime. Carmen hotter than Pam Anderson. Let's go Baywatch. Red swimsuit. Blonde on brunette. Carmen's hotter than Pam. Buy or sell?
How do you think I'm going to answer this? Who do you think I'm going to select?
I think you're going to go with Anderson.
Because prime on prime,
Prime on prime.
Their powers.
I'm going to say that you think the peak of Pamela Anderson ekes out the peak of Carmen Electra.
Wrong. Sell. Look, Carmen Electra ruined herself, okay? But before she did, her peak, almost perfect.
So wait a minute.
And Pamela, I never felt was on the verge of perfection. As amazing as she was in her peak.
Okay, so you're selling my notion. You're buying this. You're buying Carmen.
Right. I'm buying the hotter sell, but I'm selling your notion. There's two separate things
Look at you.
at the same time.
Well done. And that is exactly what I hoped you would do. And I think you're right. I do think you're right. I think there is a.
I think Pamela's prime lasted longer than Carmen's.
Now that might be a good. Yeah, that may be a good way to say it. Both of them are so incredible at their absolute peak.
I really felt like when Carmen dated Dennis Rodman, I was like, "Holy hell! How did Dennis Rodman do that?" And after she dated him, I forever thought, "Well, hell, man, she dated Dennis Rodman," and like everything that followed, I blamed that on Rodman.
Yeah, the Dennis Rodman's one thing, but when it's Dennis Rodman and Dave Navarro, that's tough. It's a tough world.
It just is.
Happy birthday to Carmen Electra. All right, let me scan the chats here. Make sure we didn't miss a super chat on the way. Well, wait, there's one. Hold on. Sailor Joe, 199. Buy or sell. John Cena is actually going to run it back. WrestleMania 42. Sailor Joe, that needs to be a sell.
I don't even know if they can honestly make it. I guess he has to defend the title. I will not rush. The only way I'll watch him defend the title is if it ends with a couple. I want to see the guys that were in the triple threat match involved with Cena. That's what I don't need to see anything else of what we've seen. I'm good. Yeah.
And I'm with Anthony here. It's again my point. Cody should have led it. Cena really looked old. Anthony, how did they not realize that? Like walk yourself through it. He's 47 years old, and at his best, he's basic. At his best,
run through that match for WrestleMania. They're going through the match, right?
Yeah, I would.
Two guys didn't get together on Sunday, and that was the first time they did any ring work together?
Oh, God, no. You would hope not, right? But the chemistry was bad, and then to let John lead that discussion, to let John lead everything that way, it's just – because like you said, Catch, it was so clunky where he hasn't done it in a while, ring rust and all that, match rust and all that, and he's screaming out, again, hit me again, hit me again. I'm like, dude, really? We all hear about those stories like 20 years later, and we go, wait, the Undertaker told Mick to do that? Wait, Foley told The Rock to hit him again with the chair? Well, I didn't see it. Of course you didn't see it because he's damn good at doing it that way. He's damn good. Cena is rusty at that. And then they said, hey, old man, why don't you lead the show? Couple of shoulder tackles and STFU, and we'll go home.
I'm just telling you, I have such an appreciation for Ric Flair in his 60s. After seeing John Cena in his 40s.
Catch, all I would tell people is if you want to see an older guy that can still work his ass off, Flair, Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania. Remember that match?
Yeah.
And by the way, for the record, do you know who led that match?
No.
The young guy did.
I just remember it was a great match.
Shawn Michaels did. I've heard them both interviewed, and Flair was like, oh, yeah, no, he led me through that whole thing. He told me, trust me, I got you. And he let freaking now, Cody Rhodes is not Shawn Michaels, but John Cena and everybody needed to trust in Cody a little bit there. Let the American Nightmare do his work. Don't just have him lay down like he looked like Cena fighting Lesnar. That's what he looked like. And that's not what that's supposed to be.
I've never been a big Bret the Hitman Hart fan.
Okay.
I just never was. And I, a lot of times, never quite got the bit that I probably was just as a young person was like, I like the big muscular guys like clotheslining each other. I don't necessarily need to see great ring work, right? I mean, hell, I was a Kerry Von Erich fan.
How dare you?
But I came away last night thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, man, Cody Rhodes isn't in the same universe as Bret Hart.
Oh, Lord, no.
And I don't think of Bret Hart when we have these who's on the Mount Rushmore discussions. And we start, I don't know, man. Like, I really wanted to be entertained and enjoy last night. I committed myself fully to it. I watched all of Saturday. There were times when I didn't pay a lot of attention to some of the matches, but it was on the entire time.
Yep.
I did not feel like they delivered for the less. I have no idea how that hit for a hardcore fan, but as somebody who used to be a hardcore fan, that's a mainstream fan, not content at all.
Cena has better acting in his movies. Oh my God. Yeah. And I'm not even the hardest of hardcores. I don't know what the hardcores really thought of that one. That's got to be insane. Hooked on the Horns has one more super chat for us. It's actually for me, $5. Chad, I will not be sorry for your schloss.
Hey, guys, you guys need to trust me on this.
Damn.
Wait till afterwards. I'm not a big smack talk person in general. I let people, it's just not my thing mainly. But I am definitely not the week of a game, talk a bunch of trash before the game.
Man, I'm just so glad. I'm so glad it's almost here. I'm so glad that the Aggies woke up. And right now, Catch, these are two pretty badass baseball teams that are about to knock heads.
I mean, they're red hot. They're red hot.
Right. If you tell me A&M got swept by Bama and Vanderbilt, well, now I'm a little skittish. But then you go, wait, hang on. They win the series in Fayetteville and Knoxville. Like, wait, what? They did what? I mean, now that but the more consistent team clearly has been Texas, and they get the home series. This is going to be wild. And obviously the sloss ingredient was there. Even if both these teams were 0-18 in conference, the sloss thing is enough to make it interesting. Now you got the two baseball teams playing pretty badass, and sloss is involved. Wow.
It's that simple. It really is. Yeah. Like, it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. And I would just tell Texas fans, hey, just wait till after you get 2 out of 3.
Yeah. What's the Brian Jones line? What does Brian always say? His mama used to always tell him, do not taunt the alligator until you cross the river. Sometimes.
I would say that when they're playing, I would just like, but look, I'm the guy that when they went to Missouri was like, well, sweeps going to be hard. Sweeps are hard. Right. So my brain still is not calibrated. Number 1 team in the country. And man, they were really impressive this weekend. And Jonah Williams, he'll probably get his own show at some point this week.
Catch, they have 4 sweeps. 4. Including what was Auburn, top 10? Yeah. Right? They're not just sweeping garbage.
No, they've had some injuries and they seem to be getting better. And the fact that they debuted Jonah Williams this weekend, really, right? First start. And then afterwards, because we know he felt like a mascot on that team. And after this weekend, he feels like the player who I most want to watch at bat every time he plays.
Yeah. Can you imagine this weekend, impactful big moment at bats for Jonah Williams against the Aggies? Holy smokes.
Gonna be fun. And suddenly, Jonah Williams has made a team that was already number one in the country and really interesting, even more interesting. All right, Chad, let's wrap it up.
All right, we will head towards the door. Thank y'all for all those super chats and chats. Damn near 800 of you in there as we get ready to close up. Remember, like, subscribe, get your notifications. We have arrived at 25,000 subscribers on YouTube, but you know we're on our way to 8 million. So please help us out. Subscribe if you haven't. Like this video on the way out if you didn't like it on the way in. You got football with friends at 6 tonight. You got old fashioned tomorrow morning at 9. And then tomorrow at noon, it is the Modcast with me and the fellas. We'll get you the very latest on the portal. Who knows? Sark may have grabbed 2 or 3 more guys by the time we do that show tomorrow at noon. Y'all take care. This is House Divided, and we are Orange